Hello there, welcome back to my channel, Snips by Kelly. I'm Kelly, and tonight I have a Simply Scrappin' design for you, 2 pages, and it's a split design. So it's a super fun summer theme. We're using the Stampin' Up bridge product called Enjoy the Ride. So it's double labeled because it's close to my heart designed, but Stampin' Up purchased and available at Stampin' Up. So it has these great summery dots, paper pack and sticker sheet, which has some great title opportunities and a summer theme. We have a picnic vibe, bicycles, florals, sunshines, butterflies, great colors, great bright summer colors in this. There's some great acrylic dots that come with it. And then when you look at the branding strip or the zip strip, we have Harbor, Bluebird, Rosy, Honey Butter, Jade, Limeade, and French Vanilla as coordinating colors. So I'm focusing on my grandson, Carter Kirk, and Carter is now 13, but this was the year before, so he was 12, and a couple of my grandkids, Avery Jean and Hattie Elaine and Carter, we were hanging out and we were getting ready for something, but we had like an hour and a half to kill. So Carter suggested that we go to the dock at Wagner Lake and do a little fishing. I thought that I would want to showcase all of the patterns and colors that are in this collection because they're so summery and so fun. And the split design layout has been so popular. You see them all over now. I wanted to use a split design, and I'll explain the split design here a little bit more as we go, but I wanted to create a little bit of a fun play on every pattern in the pack. So I have some 1 by, let's see, I think 6-inch strips, 1 by 6-inch of the Honey Butter, Limeade, Bluebird, and Rosy, and then 1 each of the designs in the paper pack of the same size. I'm using just a piece of white daisy cardstock that is 6 by 10 because it's not going to show, and I wanted to arrange the strips in color families, somewhat of a gradient, so kind of putting the Honey Butter together, the Limeade together, the Bluebird together, and the Rosy together. And then there's a couple mixed patterns, which I'm just kind of trying to figure out what order I want these to go in. But this is a technique I use when I want multicolored strips, but I don't want to cut all the little pieces. So instead of cutting little 1.5 by 1-inch pieces, I'm actually using the 6 by 10 so that I can cut those strips all at once and make 4 different pattern strips that are 1.5 inches each. So I'm just going to assemble all of these strips on that background paper, and then I'm going to cut 1.5 inches vertically 4 times to make 4 multi-pattern strips. And these strips are going to act as a focal piece to the base of my split layout page. I love doing this when I want to showcase all of the patterns that come in a paper pack, but I don't want to use very much paper. So it's pretty common for you to have like a 1-inch strip left over. So this is something that you could do when you had a whole bunch of patterns with just 1 by 6-inch strips, even if it isn't a coordinating theme or all from one paper pack. If you have random pieces that are at least 6 inches long, you could totally use this and be able to create great pages out of tiny pieces. So most of you know that my simple scrappin' design is a promise to keep it simple, no stamping, no inking, no Cricut cuts, no equipment needed, no dies or thin cuts needed. These pages are designed and promised to be simple with no added equipment needed. So sometimes I have to use my paper to showcase. So now you can see that I'm able to get 4 1.5-inch strips out of this one 6 by 10 piece. So now I'm going to cut that at 1.5 inches times 4, and I'll end up with 4 1.5 by 10-inch multicolored strips, and I love that. The only thing I didn't think of, because I thought I might turn some of those upside down to get some variation in my pages, the only thing I didn't think about is the bicycle paper that then makes the bicycles upside down. So I do pull those bicycles off of that small little area, turn them over, and they go right back on very easily. So we're going to do a split layout. By split layout, what I mean is we're going to use a hodgepodge of strips, and we're going to split the pages in the middle. So we're going to make strips on the left, strips on the right of each of the left and right pages, and leave the middle for some focal photos, a title, some decorative pieces. And so now I'm just actually trying to decide what paper I want for the strips. I think this is a great layout to just add a variety of strips to the sides of both edges of your paper, and it doesn't always matter how large or how long those strips are. I think you can play around with whatever pieces you have left over. I end up going with the this pattern here that reminds me of having a picnic, and I end up using quite a few little strips of that, and I'll give you the final sizes here in just a second. I'm mostly just trying to decide what I think is going to look good together. I end up landing on 2.5 by 11.5 for the right side. And I really, really, really love this pattern. Sometimes in pattern papers, I end up gravitating towards some of the same patterns over and over, but we only get 2 sheets. So I have to be a little bit chintzy. So one of the reasons I love layouts like this that use bits and pieces and paper strips is because I'm trying to stretch 6 pattern paper pieces and create a 10-page workshop. So I'm going to go a little skinnier, I think, over on the left, and I think I'm going to go with a 2 by 10. So the beauty of papers like this that you're using strips for is you can toggle the strips up and down. So some can be longer, some can be shorter. You can layer them behind each other, and it's mostly just to have a fun play. Now, I think I might decide to turn this strip upside down and then switch my strips all the way so that the little gingham at the bottom is toggled with the gingham. So it just kind of makes a little corner there at the bottom. So now I'm going to flip all of them over. And I think this is where I discover that my bicycles are upside down. So I do eventually pull just those bicycle squares off. And then I flip those over. So I'm going to pull a little bit of the sunshine pattern in, and over on the left, I'm going to go, I think, with the same size in terms of height. So 10 inches tall, but 2.5 inches wide, so that a little bit of that sunshine paper comes out from underneath the red gingham. And I'm just really not knowing exactly what I'm doing with strips. I just want to toggle the strips. That's all I want to do, is toggle little pieces of paper that peek out from underneath the previous papers. So whatever you happen to have left, if your pieces are a little bit larger or a little bit smaller, the whole concept is to just have vertical strips on the left, vertical strips on the right of each the left and the right pages, and then do your focal photos in the middle. So often we have everything geared toward the center of the page, and this is just a really fun play and a layout style that I've seen so much. It's a big trend right now. I've seen people use that. I actually used a similar pattern to this on, I think it was called Celebrate Today or Celebrating You, and it was kind of like a New Year's sparkly theme, and I really loved that. Now that was more of a sparkle and shine, so I was able to do some inking and splattering in the middle and do lots of added techniques. I added Cricut cuts, and this is a Simply Scrappin', so I'm probably going to have to get creative with little bits and pieces of paper to make this work. And I'm envisioning just using little little bits of paper here and sort of being magical in terms of using a little magic and knowing that I'm going to probably put the 4x6 photos here. So maybe I can just get by with little tiny paper pieces instead of full long strips if they're going to be covered up by the photos. So right now I'm just taking that 2.5x10 sunshine and I'm just toggling that flush to the base. I suppose it's about, I'm gonna guess, maybe 3/4 of an inch or half an inch down, not quite 3/4 of an inch up from the bottom of the French vanilla base. And then I'm gonna toggle the red gingham about probably about 1.25 inches up from the bottom of the sunshine paper. Then I'm going to layer those strips that we made and maybe about 1/4 of an inch hanging over the bottom of the sunshine page. So each of the, or sunshine paper. So each of them is just toggled just a titch up and down to create really cool layers. So now I'm going to take some extra pieces and I'm going to work a little bit on the right side of the left page. Now I'm going to do probably photo mats here, 4 1/4 by 6 1/4 bluebird for the two left larger photos that are 4x6. On the right, I'm going to do 4 1/4 by 4 1/4 bluebird 2, and then 3 1/4 by 4 1/4 bluebird 1. And then I have a little piece here on the bottom of the this page, and I think we can just kind of chunk it. We can kind of just make a fun little play. It ends up being 2.5 by 4.5, the sunshine paper. Then I have a couple little red gingham squares here that are 2.5 by 2 that I think I can somehow toggle over here on the top because the 4 1/4 by 6 1/4 bluebird is going to be covering up the blank space. So I'm just being a little chintzy with my pattern. You can run a whole strip along here, but I really feel like we can just get by with little pieces and then strategically place the photos. So again, they're 2.5 by 2 inches, and I'm actually toggling them the opposite. So I'm using the bottom strip on the long way with the 2.5 horizontal and the top strip with the 2 inches horizontal. And then I think we'll go under that with a little piece of the sunshine paper. So I'm kind of all over the place with these strips, but I just want to use little tiny pieces. So I end up using, let's see, I think that was 2.5 by 5 up at the top. And that seems to work out really well. Or 2.5 by 4.5 is what it is. Yep, 2.5 by 4.5. The one over on the right is 2.5 by 5. So they're really close. The top sunshine paper on the left page in the upper right is 2.5 by 4.5, and then the sunshine pattern paper on the lower left of the right page is 2.5 by 5. So they're really, really close. And then I'm thinking I need to offset that bright strip with all the patterns, do some kind of an offset so it just doesn't blend right into the red gingham. So I'm thinking like 1/8 inch strips. I end up not going with this. I end up not liking that. There's just something I didn't like. I know I need a transition strips there some way right there, but I don't end up going with the bluebird 1/8 of an inch strips. A lot of times I do like to make 1/8 inch transition strips on lots of my pages. It's just enough to help your eye from bleeding all of that together, and it just gives it a nice transition. I decide to try limeade, and maybe it is just the 1/8 inch that's bothering me. So I decide to try a little bit bigger pieces and see if that works better. So I end up going over on the right with a 1/2 inch by 9. I'm going to do some tearing, but the final answer ends up being about 9 inches. And then it's a 1/2 inch by 9 inches over there on the right. And I'll probably follow suit, and I'll probably use some different sizes. So now I'm going to go with 1/4 of an inch, and I go with 1/4 of an inch by about 9 again. And I'll tell you finally, let's go ahead and work this out, and then I'll tell you the final answer on all of those strips, because it takes me a minute to sort it out. Where do I want wide? Where do I want thin? So I think I want a wider, like 1/2 inch on the right side of the right page. And then I think I want a narrower 1/4 inch on in the left side of the right page, and then I'll just rotate. So I'll go with wide again on the right side of the left page, and then narrow again on the left side of the left page. So I'll give you those final strips from left to right: 1/4 by 9.5, 1/2 by 4, 1/4 by 6, and 1/2 by 9 is where the limeade strips went, and I tore the tops of all of those. So now I've put an 1/8 inch frame of white daisy, and I kind of messed up here because I'm using French vanilla. So normally, if I'm using a French vanilla base, anytime I need to pull in a photo mat, it's going to be French vanilla, and I completely forgot, and I made those white daisy. So probably off camera, I will change those. I don't realize that I do this until the video is all recorded. I would probably make those photo mats 4 1/8 by 6 1/8 French vanilla, and then 4 1/4 by 4 1/8 by 4 1/8 French vanilla for those two, and then 3 1/8 by 4 1/8 French vanilla for the 3x4 photo. It's a little too late for the video, but I will probably change it because it will probably bother me because the white is just way more bright than the French vanilla. So I think those should be French vanilla. And then I think I can toggle those. Now, if you watched my last video where I did a Simply Scrappin' layout, I talked about being a little chintzy. I can only use so many stickers because I'm making 10-page workshop out of 6 pattern paper sheets. So I'm just using the paper pack and sticker sheet and the dots and some extra cardstock. That's all I'm using because my guarantee to my simple scrappers is that I keep it simple and that I keep the price point down and that I keep it very simple and easy to duplicate, as well as no fancy footwork. So I'm just looking at some of the stickers here. And I really wanted to use the blue title. I felt like it was so perfect for Carter, these moments that matter the most. So one of the reasons that I chose to scrapbook these simple pages is Carter is so kind and so patient with his cousins. I'm deciding to cut the journal sticker off and maybe use the floral part of the journal sticker somewhere else, stick the journal sticker at the top of that right photo, and then use that other half on the bottom to just do a little bridging of the gap between that limeade sticker. And it stretches things a little bit. I like Hello Summer up at the top. We might have to do a little decorating with some paper strips, but Carter is 12 here and he's now 13, but his girl cousins adore him, and he was the only boy for almost 12 years, 11 years, I guess. He was the only boy. And then Waylon James was born. And so we have 8 grandchildren, all of them girls, except Waylon and Carter now. And so Carter was the only boy for 11 years. And he was always so patient with the girls, so patient. They idolize him. They adore him. And he throws them around and gives them piggyback rides and does arts and crafts with them and takes them fishing. And you can see in these photos how gentle and kind he is. He's helping Hattie Elaine catch her fish. He gets the worms on for him and takes the fish off for him. And he is an amazing, and I keep thinking, he's a teenager and we're going to lose him and he's going to, not want to come around. And I always prepare the girls and I always say he might be busy, but every single time when they're here, he comes and spends time with them and they love him so much. And it's so amazing. And I haven't done a ton of pages with Carter lately because he's all of his pictures that I have of him are like football and baseball and sports. And then he's so busy. He's busy golfing. He's a great golfer. And so I need to catch up on sports photos. I have so many pages of Carter when he was younger and it was a little easier. And so I love that I have these photos of Carter with the girls. We just went out to Wagner Lake for an hour and a half and went fishing. So now I am playing with just weird little leftover paper strips to jazz it up because I've said before, I don't want to use too many stickers because I really, really want to stretch those stickers throughout the 10 pages. So what I've ended up doing here is jazzing up, adding a little piece of that gingham on the right page, and it is 2.5 inches by about a 1/2 inch, and I've torn that. Then up above the Hello Summer sticker, I've done another one that's about 2.5 inches by about a 1/2, and I've torn the top, and that just kind of helps bridge the gap a little bit. I added the Breath of Fresh Air sticker over on the right of the right page, but it's sort of getting lost. So I decide to add a little bit of a bluebird, just add a longer bluebird strip that's about 3.25 by 1/2, and then add the little gingham strip that's 2 inches by 1/2. And these sizes don't matter so much. Just tear off or cut off a few little added strips to add a little jazz. Do a little paper layering, do a little tearing. That bluebird piece up at the top there that I'm working with is 2.5, and I'm just tearing that and toggling that a little bit at the top to add added interest with just little scraps. I don't want to just keep adding sticker after sticker because I won't have enough to stretch the stickers through the 10 pages. And there's always lots of little odds and ends that are left over from a paper pack when you get done creating. So I'm just going to toggle a little bit to add a little color, a little interest, a little layering, and then the sticker, the journaling sticker is bothering me a little bit. It seems a little blunt, like it's just kind of, sticking out there with no color. So there's this added leftover strip that sort of is useful. So it was the strip that's kind of the throwaway piece between the real stickers, but I love that we can actually use that. So I've just cut or torn a little piece of that off and left it the size that it was in terms of the width, and it's about 3.5 inches. And I just want to toggle that over the top of the journal piece to add a little splash of color there so it doesn't just look so abrupt. So it's not just suddenly a little bit of a journaling piece, and adding just little teeny tiny scraps and bits and throwaway pieces to little different spots on the page really help to elevate that. Now I have my True Blue marker here, and I'm just going to add a little bit of markering technique because I've talked about this in my last Simple Scrappin', that normally if this was a sparkle and shine, I would probably do a little inking in the background, maybe a little stenciling in the background as a filler, maybe a little splatter with some shimmer brush as a filler. Maybe I would stamp with a stamp. But because it's my Simply Scrappin', I want to get by with little or nothing. So I just used the True Blue marker and added a little bit of little decorative dots, and I'm going to add some more. I start out thinking that I'm just going to use the bluebird dots, and I'm thinking, no, I think maybe maybe multicolor would be great here. So I'm going to add a few of the rosy dots. I'm going to add a few of the honey butter dots, and then I'll come back in with that journaling, or not journaling pen, but with the True Blue marker. I know that it is a tri-blend marker, and I think the boho blue marker in Stampin' Up would work great for that as well. I did neglect to say that this bridge product is only available to close to my heart, former close to my heart customers and former close to my heart makers. So if other people click on it on the Stampin' Up shop site, it will say that it's unavailable. So if you do not have a demonstrator and you need a demonstrator to help you get this bridge product, definitely reach out to me. I will put my shopping code on here, but I'll also help those that have this product available to them, this bridge product that's going to be available for 4 months. More bridge product is going to launch in June, and then more bridge product in July, and then more in August until September, when Stampin' Up launches their full 12 by 12 scrapbooking line. So if you're having trouble where you can see this product on the shop site, but you are unable to order it, reach out to me or to any former close to my heart maker that is now a Stampin' Up demonstrator. If you were a Stampin' Up demonstrator and also a close to my heart customer, you would have access to this as well, because it's based on your email. You'll be able to order it if you had an existing email in close to my heart. And they've done that because Stampin' Up is huge and the bridge product is small. And so they're trying to make the bridge product stretch until they can get their full line launched for everyone. Once they get their September line launched, they're going to have this product available, this new product that starts in September, available to every Stampin' Up demonstrator and Stampin' Up customer. The bridge product is just sort of bridging the gap. So I'm getting happy. As you noticed, I added my journaling there with my journaling strips, adhesive journaling strips, because I wanted to talk about how kind Carter is and how the girls adore him and how patient he is. And even though he was on the verge of being a teenager, he took time out of his day, and always takes time out of his day, to spend time with the littles who love their cousin Carter Kirk so much. And I felt like that was worth the extra journaling. I'm getting so happy. I hope you're happy with this simple scrapping. Check me out, hit like, subscribe, share, and shoot me a comment.